My first Call of Duty was Black Ops, way back in 2011. The campaign was fun and got me more interested in history, and while I was pretty awful at the multiplayer, I kept coming back to it. But one day my friend at school told me about this hilarious third mode where you could fight zombies as John F. Kennedy, and that we just had to play it. So, naturally, we played Kino der Toten. That was my introduction to zombies, and I've been playing the mode ever since. Over the years, I would play almost every map, do almost every quest, follow the storyline, and read up on just about everything there is to know. But there's one thing I've never really done after all these years, and that's playing for high rounds. Most of my highest rounds were in the 30s and 40s, with 1 or 2 being in the early 50s, but it was all through pretty casual gameplay. I've never really tried to play in the most optimal way to reach the truly high rounds. So I think it's time I changed that. I decided that it was time to reach the ultimate milestone, round 100. First things first, I had to pick a map. I knew that achieving round 100 would take a long time, so I chose to play on my PC where it would be easier to record. This narrowed my selection down to 2 games, World at War and Black Ops 3. Because World at War ranges from being insanely difficult to way too easy, I decided on Black Ops 3. And since I only had the Chronicles version of the game, I had these 9 maps to pick from. So I ranked them from hardest to easiest, based on my own subjective opinions. I won't go into too much detail, but I put Origins and Shadows at the bottom of the list, mostly due to the longer setups. Moon, Verrückt, Nacht, Shangri-La, and Shinonuma take the middle of the list, with it mostly coming down to map size, weapons, and gimmicks. Kino der Toten takes second place, and Ascension takes first. It's spacious, the wonder weapons are good, and best of all, it has traps. It was an easy decision. I would be getting round 100 on Origins. Now I just needed a strategy. Most people like to camp in the bottom of the fire tunnel with the ice staff, but I had something else in mind. I remembered this video by JohnnyJ25 where he interviewed the first guy to reach 255 on the map before the resets. Although this guy did start off using the standard fire tunnel strategy, after around 161 I think, the ice staff breaks and no longer kills zombies with its blizzard, at which point he would move to the bottom of the excavation site and run trains there using alternate ammo types. Since this method was fast enough to reach 255, I figured it would get me to 100 pretty fast, so I wanted to try a modified version of it. Basically, my plan was to camp at the bottom of excavation, but still use the ice staff like you would in the fire tunnel strategy. I refreshed myself on the setup process for the map, and got started. I'll be honest, my first attempt was pretty bad, mostly thanks to the Panzersoldat. But I did still manage to obtain and upgrade the ice staff, build the Maxis drone, and get the 1-inch punch. But I would die on round 18 trying to get the G-strike. I knew the setup on this map was going to be long, but yeah, it's really long. That first Panzersoldat on round 8 was going to be my biggest problem. I was pretty good at getting Juggernog before he appeared, but having a weapon that could kill him was its own problem. A staff would be ideal, but it was really hard to get one before round 8, and wall weapons weren't really cutting it, so I took my chances on the box. In this match, I was lucky enough to get an RPK, which was good for the Panzer, but relying on the box was risky. Sure, I could get a really good weapon on my first try, or I could waste a bunch of points on bad weapons and potentially move the box, adding fire sales to the drop cycle. Fortunately though, I was generally able to get the ice staff before the next Panzer showed up, so as long as I could defeat the first one, I'd be good for the rest of the match. I had also been buying stamina up during my games, which did help with all the running around during the setup, but because the strategy I wanted to use involved camping with 3 guns, I would switch it out for Mule Kick later. Despite the early down, this was still my best run so far. And just like that, it was all gone. To save myself some time, I decided to cut a few things out of the setup. I wasn't going for the G-strikes anymore since I was having trouble with the melee kills, which also meant I didn't need to get the 1-inch punch either. I also figured maybe instead of Mule Kick for a third gun, I could use Widow's Wine in case I get overwhelmed in the excavation site, but then I got a 5th perk slot, so I got Mule Kick anyway. Finally, on round 25 of this match, I would be all set up. Now I just had to get used to the timing of everything. I would use the M1927 with turned, and the M8A7 with fireworks as my 2 bullet weapons, since they were both relatively close for more ammo. I'd start with my turned weapon, then my fireworks, and finally a charged shot from the ice staff once a fair amount had grouped up on the stairs, which lasted about 10 seconds. I got the rhythm down pretty well so that my AATs would usually activate every time I cycled through the weapons. But the thing that messed me up was the ice staff. The charged shot does take a second to go into effect, and I tried to grab a couple drops before it had a chance to do so, leading to my down and eventual death on round 42. The setup process was still a little rough. I would need to stop going down in the early rounds, and I still didn't have a reliable way of handling the first Panzer, but overall things were looking promising. Over the next couple of months I had made some improvements. I was now playing on a controller which was much more comfortable for me, and I had also made this cool Juggernog emblem which was bound to give me some good luck. In this particular match, I had a very good start by getting the Haymaker from a dig site. Despite earning less points with it, its power made everything a lot easier, especially that first Panzer. I got the shield, Maxis drone, upgraded staff, perks, and weapons, and was set up by round 15. But I still had one problem, and that was the Templar zombies. I didn't want them turning my generators off in case I needed to buy my perks back. I read somewhere that having 2 generators off would prevent them from spawning, but that wasn't true. You actually need to have 3 off, but I'd figure that out later. So for now, I'd just try and stop them whenever I could and take the max ammo that came with it. Also in this game, I wanted to see what all the hype was about for the fire tunnel strategy, so I decided to spend a couple rounds down there. Boy was it fast, but also risky. I almost died down there, but was able to use my anywhere but here to escape. I returned to the excavation site after this chicanery, but one of my AATs failed to activate and I would die here on round 43, just 1 round higher than last time. At this point, another problem had begun to present itself: ammo. Because my weapons were not giving me many drops, I found myself running out quite a bit, relying mostly on Panzers and Templars for max ammos. Alchemical Antithesis would have really helped with this, but I didn't have it unlocked yet. So it was time to grind. I played several games, got myself to level 35, and was able to make my ideal Gobblegum pack. I also noticed that the RK5 and the Shiva seemed to activate their AATs much faster than the weapons I had been using, so I thought it would be a good idea to try those out on Origins. Okay, so I took a break for a while, but I came back to it more determined than ever. While I was away, I made some other videos about seeing the round 50 Easter eggs on Call of the Dead and Zetsubo no Shima, which taught me some pretty valuable high round tips. For example, don't waste your points on quick revive early on. The match really isn't worth playing if you waste a revive so soon, so the points are better used on something else. And, well, that was about it. I was also playing on Xbox now, where I'm a Prestige Master, so all that grinding on PC was for nothing. So I hopped back into it, ready to reach round 100. Okay, I needed some time to warm back up. I figured round 7 was far enough to buy quick revive, and I also picked up the RK5. Don't worry, I didn't forget about that. I would have gotten the Shiva too, but I was a little short on points, so I stuck with the Haymaker I dug up. I'd like to tell you that the upgraded RK5 was great and that I should have been using it from the start, but oh my god was it awful. All of the points I earned from it went straight to buying more ammo, which was a real problem when I had to choose between ammo and perks. The AAT did seem to activate more frequently, but it was not worth it. And so, after a few more practice games, I was back to the original strategy, but I had made some wonderful discoveries that would make things so much easier. First of all, I finally discovered a consistent way to handle the first Panzer. As it turns out, the KRM is actually very effective, capable of taking it out in just a few well-placed shots, so I bought that every game. Secondly, I started building the fire staff, since it was so easy to make anyway. I would use it in the excavation site while it was still effective, usually until about round 30, which would save my ice staff ammo for when I really needed it. And last but not least, I stopped charging up the ice staff all the way. You see, these 3 little crystals indicate how much you've charged it up. Before I was going all the way, which uses 6 ammo and creates a blizzard that lasts 10 seconds. But if you only charge it up to the second crystal, it only uses 3 ammo, but the blizzard still lasts for 8 seconds. If we do the math, I only use half the ammo, but get almost 2 more minutes worth of blizzards. And to make things even better, drops seem to appear more frequently when you only charge the staff halfway. With these alterations, I'd make it to round 43, which is the same round I had made it to before, but then I'd beat that the next game, I'd make it to 50, and then all the way to 60 where I would die. In the next match, I'd remember that the reward chest exists, so I started using that. I took the upgraded weapon to save myself 5,000 points, and the double tap perk, which is probably better to have early on when you can actually kill zombies with bullets. I also tried playing without quick revive to remove death machines from the drop cycle, but that actually doesn't work on this map. I still did the fire staff in the excavation site, but when I switched over to the ice staff, I finally decided to move down to one of the tunnels. I chose the wind tunnel, since it was so close to the shield, Juggernog, and the KN-44 for ammo. The area above was the easiest for me to train in if I needed to, and having that portal as an emergency exit really came in handy sometimes. I really wanted to make the excavation site work, but the pros just outweighed the cons. I decided that Widow's Wine would be better to have than Mule Kick here, since it was easier to cycle through 2 weapons instead of 3 in such a small area, and I liked the extra protection whenever I got hit. Additionally, I was using Dead Wire on my weapon now, since it had the fastest recharge time of all the alternate ammo types. I'd managed to beat round 60, and make it to 70 in this match, and then to 79 in the next before lagging out. It was heartbreaking to lose all that progress, but the end was in sight. There were just a few things left to do to further refine my strategy. First, I finally got the G-Strike, which I really should have been using this whole time. Second, I would leave 3 generators off to prevent Templar zombies from spawning. I chose generators 1, 3, and 4 to leave on so that I could easily get Quick Revive, Speed Cola, and Juggernog back. It is also possible to force them to spawn by turning on the 4th generator, which could be used to get a max ammo, but I never actually needed to do that. Third, I migrated to the fire tunnel. It may have been farther away from all the things I needed, but it was really close to the Gobblegum machine in spawn, which was really helpful for getting more alchemical antithesis. And lastly, I put on Stardust Crusaders to listen to on the higher rounds, which made the monotony of those rounds much more bearable. I reached round 80, then 90, 95, 96, and 97. Things got tricky on 98 when I ran out of Ice Staff ammo and G-Strikes, but luckily I still had the max ammo in the reward chest. On 99 I got more ammo from Templars, and then a natural max ammo after that. And then, finally, I would make it to...
Maybe someone should go turn on the power now!
Round 100. 14 months earlier I had set out to reach this round, and now I had finally done it. After so many hours of optimizing my gameplay, it was time to get silly. I ran around killing as many zombies as I could before I got caught in the trenches. 100 rounds, 2 million score, and over 31,000 kills, all done in roughly 5 hours. I'll be honest with you all, at one point I really wanted to give up on this map. The setup was just so long and tedious, especially after the 10th time in a row, but I did tease this video in my Zetsubo no Shima one, so I had no choice but to do it. And I'm glad that I did, because seeing that round counter hit 100 after so many failed attempts was very cathartic. Honestly, I kinda want to do it again, and I think I know what map I'll pick.